The great hall of the Orion Council buzzed with fear. Thousands of beings from 37 different worlds sat in rising circles around a central platform. Light from 3 suns poured through the crystal dome above. On any other day, it would have been beautiful. Today, it felt like the calm before a storm. Commander Doyen stood tall despite his worry. His green scales caught the light as he looked over the crowd. As leader of the Zalari Defense Forces, he had seen many things in his 200 years, but nothing like this. The reports are confirmed, he said, his deep voice carrying across the hall. 3 outer colonies have gone silent. No survivors found, no warning sent. The crowd grew louder. Fear spread like a disease. Elder Seogen raised his thin 4-fingered hand. The ancient Voltan diplomat had lived for over 500 years. His skin was pale blue and hung loose on his frame. When he spoke, everyone listened. In all my years, the Orion Expanse has known peace, he said. 3,000 years of working together, of building rather than destroying. Now we face something new. Captain Jiwoo stepped forward. Her hard exoskeleton clicked against the floor. The Meridian Tactical Officer's compound eyes scanned the room, reading the mood. The attack came without warning, she said. Her voice was calm, but her antennae twitched with stress. Our outer sensors caught this image before they were destroyed. She pressed a button on her wrist. Above the platform, a giant image appeared. The ship in the picture looked like nothing they had ever seen. It was black as space itself, with sharp edges that seemed to cut the very stars around it. It had no visible engines or weapons, yet it moved with clear purpose. "What are they?" someone shouted from the crowd. "We do not know," Jiwoo answered. "They do not answer our calls, they do not stop when warned. They simply destroy." The council room erupted in voices. Some called for immediate attack. Others wanted to send more diplomats. A few even suggested hiding. Commander Doyen raised his hands for quiet. "We have sent a diplomatic ship already," he said. "Our best speakers and minds are on board. They carry gifts and peace offerings from all our worlds." Elder Seogen nodded, slowly. "A wise first step. Violence should never be our first choice." A young aide rushed into the room. His face showed pure terror. He ran to Doyen and whispered in his ear. The commander's scales turned pale. "The diplomatic fleet has been destroyed," Doyen announced. His voice cracked. "All ships, all people, gone." Silence fell over the hall. In 3,000 years of peace, they had forgotten what real danger felt like. "Show us," Elder Seogen said quietly. Jiwoo's claws trembled as she played the recording. The diplomatic fleet, 12 ships of various sizes, approached the black vessel. They broadcast peace messages in every known language. They sent gifts of art and knowledge ahead. The black ship waited until they were close. Then, without warning, it released a wave of energy unlike anything they had seen. The diplomatic ship simply disappeared. Not destroyed in pieces, not burned. They were there, and then they were gone. "We are calling them the Void Reapers," Doyen said into the silence, "and they are heading toward populated worlds." The next 3 hours were filled with plans. The Orion Expanse had defense ships, of course. Every peaceful society needed some protection, but they were few and built for small threats, pirates or the occasional rogue group. Nothing like this. "We must gather all ships," Jiwoo suggested. "Create a defense line at the terrace sector. It is a natural choke point," Doyen agreed. "I will lead the fleet myself." Elder Seogen looked troubled. "Our ships are not built for war, Commander. They carry minimal weapons." "We have no choice," Doyen replied. "We either fight or watch our worlds burn one by one." The council voted. The defense plan was approved. For 2 days, ships gathered at the terrace sector. 300 vessels of all sizes formed a wall in space. Their crews were scared but determined. They had families and homes to protect. The Void Reapers arrived with a fleet of 50 ships, each identical to the first one they had seen. Black, sharp, silent. "Hold positions," Doyen ordered from his command ship. "Do not fire first." Jiwoo stood beside him on the bridge. Her tactical screen showed their fleet in blue, the enemy in red. "They are slowing," she reported. Perhaps they recognize our strength. For a moment, hope flickered. Maybe the show of force would be enough. Then the Void Reaper ships moved. Not forward as expected, but in a strange pattern. They formed a circle and began to spin. What are they doing? Doyen asked. Before Jiwoo could answer, space itself seemed to twist. A black hole formed in the center of the enemy circle, but unlike natural black holes, this one pulsed with purpose. Evasive action, Doyen shouted. Too late. The black hole expanded rapidly, pulling in the center of the defense fleet. Ships tried to escape, engines burning at full power. But the pull was too strong. 50 ships vanished into the darkness in seconds. The hole collapsed as quickly as it had formed. The remaining Void Reaper ships moved forward, firing strange weapons that seemed to fold space around their targets. Where they hit, ships simply ceased to exist. Retreat, Doyen ordered. His voice was hollow. All ships retreat. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 20 minutes. Of 300 defense ships, only 97 escaped. Back at the council hall, the mood was dark. Reports were coming in. From across the expanse, more colonies attacked, millions dead, and the Void Reapers were moving faster now, as if they had taken the measure of their enemy and found them wanting. They will reach the core worlds in days, Jiwoo reported. Her usual calm was gone. Billions of lives are in danger. Elder Seojin sat with his head bowed. 3,000 years of peace has left us unprepared for war. We need more ships, Doyen said. More weapons. There is no time to build them, another council member said. As they argued, a message arrived from the outer sensors. 3 major homeworlds had been attacked simultaneously. The Tellarite world, home to 6 billion. The Marov system with its 4 inhabited planets. And Zelar, Doyen's own homeworld. The commander stood frozen as the reports came in. Total destruction. No survivors found. His family, his friends, his entire species, reduced in population by 80% in a single day. Jiwoo placed a gentle claw on his arm. Commander, I am sorry. Doyen looked around the room. Fear had given way to despair on every face. 3,000 years of working together, building a society based on peace and cooperation, and now they faced extinction in days. We cannot give up, he said, though his heart felt like stone in his chest. There must be something we haven't thought of, some weakness they have, or some strength we need but don't have, Elder Seojin said quietly. His ancient eyes seemed to look beyond the room, into the past. There were stories from before the expanse, tales of a species so unpredictable that they could not join our peaceful union. Stories won't save us, someone shouted. Perhaps, the elder continued. But if these beings exist, if they developed separately from us, they might have what we lack. What is that? Doyen asked. The will and the means to wage war, Seojin answered. The stories called them humans. 3 days after the fall of the 3 homeworlds, the Orion Council met in a small underground room. The Grand Hall was no longer safe. The Void Reapers might find them there. Commander Doyen had not slept. His scales were dull, and his eyes were tired. But he stood straight as he faced the others. We have lost contact with 7 more worlds, he said. Our people are running with nowhere to go. General Hyon slammed his rocky fist on the table. The Kavari were made of living stone, and his anger made small cracks appear on his surface. We should fight, he growled. Die with honor instead of running like prey. Die how you wish, said Science Director Mina. I prefer to find a way to live. The Philidian researcher was small, with fur that glowed softly in the dim room. Her 6 fingers moved quickly over her datapad. Have you found anything? Elder Seojin asked her. Any weakness we can use? Mina looked up, her round eyes blinking slowly. Yes and no, she said. I studied the sensor readings from the battle. The Void Reapers are using some kind of dimensional technology. They can see what we will do before we do it. How is that possible? Jiwoo asked. They look sideways in time, Mina tried to explain. They see all possible moves we might make, then they counter the most likely ones. The room fell silent as they understood what this meant. They could not win, not when the enemy could predict their every move. A new voice spoke from the door. Then we need someone the Void Reapers cannot predict. Everyone turned. A tall, thin alien stood there. His clothes were torn and dirty. Behind him stood a group of equally ragged aliens of various species. Taehyun, Elder Seojin said with surprise. We thought you died on Merov. Many did, Taehyun said. I led a group of survivors on a transport ship. We barely escaped. Taehyun walked to the table. Though tired and hurt, he moved with purpose. We need new allies, he said. Someone the Void Reapers have never seen before. Someone they cannot predict. Elder Seojin nodded slowly. The humans I mentioned. Yes, Taehyun said. In the refugee camps, people speak of them. An aggressive species from a distant arm of the galaxy. General Hyon snorted. Children's tales. If these humans exist, why have we never met them? Because we avoid them, Elder Seojin said. Long ago, when the Orion expanse was new, scout ships found their world. They were primitive then, but extremely violent. They fought each other constantly. The scouts decided they were too dangerous to contact. Now we need dangerous, Doyen said quietly. Captain Jiwoo stepped forward. I can lead a mission to find them. My ship is small and fast. It would be suicide, Yan warned. You would need to cross Void Reaper territory. I will go too, Taehyun said. My people need hope. These humans might be our only chance. For the next day, they prepared the mission. Mina gave them all the data she had found about the Void Reapers. Elder Seojin provided ancient star charts showing where humans might be found. Remember, he told Jiwoo, these charts are 3,000 years old. The humans may be gone. Or they may have spread to many worlds by now. If they still exist, I will find them, Jiwoo promised. As they loaded the ship, Doyun approached Jiwoo. The Council is planning one last attack, he said. We will gather every ship we have left. Try to buy you time. Jiwoo's antennae drooped. You know it won't work. We know, Doyun agreed. But we must try, and it might slow them down enough for your mission. They clasped hands, warrior to warrior. Find these humans, Doyen said. Convince them to help us. Whatever it takes. Jiwoo's ship left that night using the darkness to hide from Void Reaper patrols. Taehyun and 5 others went with her. They carried gifts, data, and desperate hope. 3 days later, the greatest fleet the Orion expanse had ever gathered moved against the Void Reapers. 1,000 ships, many of them not built for battle. They were led by Doyen and Hyun. Science Director Mina watched from a hidden base as the fleet engaged the enemy. She had developed some new shields that might help, but in her heart she knew it would not be enough. The battle was shown on screens around the base. At first there was hope. The new shields worked better than expected. Some Void Reaper ships were actually damaged. Then the Void Reapers changed tactics. Their ships formed new patterns. Space bent and twisted in ways Mina had never seen before. They're adapting, she whispered. Learning from each attack. Within hours it was clear they had lost. Hundreds of coalition ships were destroyed. The rest scattered, running for any safe place they could find. General Hyon's ship was lost. With all hands, Commander Doyen barely escaped in a small pod, badly injured. When he was brought to the base, Mina rushed to meet him. How bad? She asked the medics. He will live, one said. But he may never fight again. Doyen lay on a bed, his scales burned and broken. His eyes found Mina's. Has there been any word from Jiwoo? He asked, his voice weak. Nothing yet, Mina said. But it's too soon. In truth, it had been 5 days since Jiwoo's ship disappeared into unknown space. Mina feared they would never hear from her again. As days passed, more worlds fell to the Void Reapers. Refugees packed into remaining. Safe planets, food and water became scarce. Disease spread in the crowded camps. Elder Seojin worked tirelessly, moving from camp to camp, bringing comfort where he could. One night, as he sat by a fire, a child asked him a question. Will we all die? Seojin looked at the small boy. He was a Tellarite, one of the few left. His skin was supposed to be bright orange, but grief and hunger had turned it dull. No, little one, Seojin said, though he wasn't sure he believed it. Help will come. The humans? The boy asked. News of Jiwoo's mission had spread, giving people something to hold on to. Yes, the humans, Seojin said. That night, as Seojin slept, a message came through on emergency channels. It was broken and static-filled, but the words were clear. This is Captain Jiwoo. Found them. Humans are real, coming back with... They have agreed to. Then the message cut off. In the command center, Mina played it again and again, trying to clean up the signal. Was Jiwoo really coming back? Had she actually found humans? And most importantly, would they help? She rushed to tell Doyen, who was now sitting up in bed. Do you think it's true? She asked him. Could she have really found them? Doyen looked at the message data. The signal came from beyond known space, he said. And it's definitely Jiwoo's voice. For the first time in weeks, he felt a tiny spark of hope. Now we wait, he said. And pray these humans are everything the old stories say they are. What they didn't know was that at that very moment, Jiwoo's damaged ship was racing back toward Coalition space. Behind it came something the Orion Expanse had never seen before, a human battle fleet. Word spread quickly. Captain Jiwoo was coming back, and she was not alone. She had found the humans. The Coalition set up a meeting point at an old space station. It orbited a dead world, far from any living planets. If things went wrong, no one else would be hurt. Commander Doyen insisted on being there. His wounds were still healing, but he stood tall as the Coalition's ships gathered. Elder Seojin came too, along with Science Director Mina. They would speak for all the species of the Orion Expanse. What if they are as violent as the stories say? Mina asked nervously. What if they want to conquer us too? Then we face two enemies instead of one, Doyun said simply. But we have no choice. The Void Reapers take more worlds each day. They waited in the main hall of the station. The walls were old and worn. The air smelled stale. But it was safe for now. A message came through. Jiwoo's ship was approaching. It looked badly damaged, with burn marks along one side. Behind it came 5 large ships of a design no one had ever seen. They're huge, Mina whispered, looking at the scanner. Each one is bigger than our largest carrier. The ships were dark gray with blue lights running along their sides. They were built like weapons with sharp angles and heavy armor, but they moved with surprising grace for their size. Jiwoo came aboard first. Her exoskeleton was cracked in places, and she seemed tired. But her eyes were bright with excitement. They are real, she said, greeting the others. The humans are real, and they are magnificent. Before she could say more, the station door opened again. 3 humans walked in. The first was tall and straight, with short gray hair and a stern face. He wore a dark uniform with gold marks on the shoulders. The second was shorter, with warm brown skin and a friendly smile. The third was young, with a confident walk and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Admiral Lee, Jiwoo announced, pointing to the first human. Diplomat Jihoon, she said of the second. And Captain Sunho. For the third, Admiral Lee stepped forward. He looked at each alien carefully, then spoke. His voice was deep and clear. On behalf of the Earth Defense Fleet and all humanity, I greet you, he said. Captain Jiwoo has told us of your troubles. We are here to help. Elder Seojin bowed slightly. We thank you for coming, Admiral. Our need is desperate. They moved to a large table. Maps and data screens covered it, showing the advance of the Void Reapers. They have taken nearly a third of our territory, Doyen explained. Billions are dead. Billions more are running with nowhere to go. Admiral Lee studied the maps with a frown. And you say they can predict your movements? See what you will do before you do it? Yes, said Mina. They use some kind of dimensional technology. We cannot surprise them. Diplomat Jihoon leaned forward. He had a soft voice but spoke with confidence. That is why Captain Jiwoo sought us out, he said. Because of what your people saw in us long ago, the thing that made you avoid us. Your violence, Elder Seojin said quietly. Your unpredictable nature. Captain Sunho laughed. It was a sharp, surprising sound in the serious room. You say that like it's a bad thing, he said. But now you need exactly that, don't you? There was an awkward silence. Then Admiral Lee spoke again. Captain Jiwoo showed us your records, he said. Your history of peace is impressive. 3,000 years without major war. We have not managed 3 decades. You fight among yourselves? Doyen asked, surprised. We have fought ourselves more than anyone else, Lee admitted. It is our shame, but also our strength. We know war. We understand it. And we have developed in ways you have not. Diplomat Jihoon pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected an image of Earth. When our ancestors looked to the stars, he said, they saw beauty, but also danger. They prepared for threats from space, even when none came. For centuries we built weapons and ships. We trained soldiers and planned for wars that never happened. Until now, said Captain Sunho. Turns out the paranoid ones were right all along. Science Director Mina moved closer to the image of Earth. She studied it with curious eyes. But how will you fight an enemy that can see your plans? She asked. Admiral Lee smiled for the first time. It changed his whole face. Because humans are chaos, he said. Even we cannot predict what we will do next sometimes. Our battle plans change in the middle of fights. Our captains make choices based on gut feelings, not just logic. We take crazy risks no sensible species would try. You mean you are illogical? Elder Seojin asked, trying to understand. Exactly, Jihoon said. And that is exactly what you need against an enemy that predicts through logic. Captain Sunho stepped to the map. He pointed to a spot where the Void Reapers had a large force. We could hit them here, he said. Small, fast attack. Not to win, but to test their defenses. See how they react to human tactics. Doyen looked worried. You would risk your ships just to test them? Knowledge is worth the risk, Admiral Lee said. We need to understand our enemy. The coalition leaders looked at each other. The humans were suggesting things they would never consider. Attack just to see what would happen. Risk lives for information. It seemed wrong to them, but they were desperate. How many ships do you have? Doyen asked. 50 battle-ready ships have come with us, Lee answered. 200 more await orders back in our space. The number shocked everyone. Humans had been preparing for war for so long, they had more battleships than the entire coalition had left. Will it be enough? Elder Seojin asked. We won't know until we try, Lee said honestly. But I promise you this. Humans do not give up easily. We will fight until we win or until we die. There is no middle ground for us. His words were simple, but they carried power. For the first time since the Void Reapers appeared, the coalition leaders felt real hope. There is something else you should know, Diplomat Jihoon added. Something Captain Jiwoo discovered when she found us. What is that? Mina asked. The Void Reapers attacked human scout ships 3 times in the past century, Jihoon explained. We thought they were just pirates or raiders. We drove them off each time. They never came back to our space. This news stunned everyone. The Void Reapers had avoided human territory. The enemy that seemed unstoppable had already met humans and retreated. Why didn't you tell us this first? Do-yoon asked, amazed. Admiral Lee's face was serious again. Because it doesn't guarantee victory. It only means they found us troublesome enough to avoid. But now they are stronger, and they have conquered much of your space. This will not be easy. Captain Sunho grinned. But it will be interesting. As they talked more, plans began to form. The humans would teach coalition forces new ways to fight, ways that might confuse the Void Reapers' prediction systems. Your people will need to learn to think like humans, Admiral Lee said. It will not be easy for you. It goes against your nature. We will learn, Doyen promised. We must. As the meeting ended, Elder Seojin approached Admiral Lee privately. Tell me honestly, the old alien said. Do we have a chance? Admiral Lee looked at him with steady eyes. What your people see as our greatest weakness, our chaotic, unpredictable nature, may be exactly what the galaxy needs right now, he said. Yes, Elder. We have a chance. The next few days were busy on the old space station. Human engineers worked on Coalition ships adding new weapons and shields. Coalition pilots tried to learn human battle tactics. It was not easy. No, no, Captain Sunho shouted during a training session. You're still thinking in straight lines. The Void Reapers expect that. You need to be unpredictable. The Coalition pilots looked confused. One of them, a Meridian like Jiwoo, spoke up. But the path you suggest wastes fuel, she said. It is not efficient. Sunho ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Efficiency doesn't matter if you're dead. Sometimes the crazy path is the one that keeps you alive. A new human arrived that day. Her name was Commander Yoonji. She was shorter than the other humans but moved with quick, sure steps. Her eyes were sharp and missed nothing. I hear you're having trouble teaching our friends how to think like humans, she said to Sunho. They want everything to make perfect sense, he complained. They don't understand that sometimes you have to trust your gut, Yoonji smiled. Then let's show them. She set up a battle simulation. In it, 5 ships faced a much larger enemy force. The Coalition pilots watched as Yoonji and Sunho ran the ships through the simulation. They did things that made no sense. They split their forces when they seemed too weak to do so. They charged directly at the enemy's strongest point. They even shut down their engines at one point, drifting dead in space. And somehow they won. This makes no sense, Science Director Mina said, studying the results. Your tactics defy all logical analysis. Exactly, Yoonji said. And that's why the Void Reapers won't see them coming. Another human joined the team. His name was Engineer Ji-hoo. He was tall and thin with clever hands that could fix almost anything. He spent his time upgrading Coalition weapons. Your weapons are good, he told Mina as they worked. But they're too predictable. They fire in patterns that can be calculated. How else would they fire? She asked. Randomly, he said, with slight variations each time. Never the same way twice. He showed her how to add a small device to their weapons. It made them fire with tiny changes in timing and power. It's less efficient, he admitted. But it makes the weapons harder to predict and counter. Mina was starting to understand. Humans value surprise over efficiency. In battle, yes, Ji-hoo said. Surprise keeps you alive. The strangest human was a quiet man named Wu Jin. He did not work on ships or weapons. Instead, he taught Coalition species how to meditate in a special way. You must empty your mind of patterns, he told them. Let your thoughts flow like water, not in straight channels, but in wild streams. Many found it very hard. Their minds were built for order, not chaos. But they tried, because they knew their survival depended on it. While the training continued, Admiral Lee met with Commander Doyen and Elder Seojin to plan their strategy. We should attack here, Lee suggested, pointing to a small Void Reaper outpost. Test their defenses with a small force. That outpost is not important, Doyen said, confused. Exactly. They won't expect us to attack it, and we'll learn how they respond. Elder Seojin watched the humans with growing interest. Their minds worked so differently. They saw opportunities where his people saw only risks. 5 days after the humans arrived, an urgent message came in. The Void Reapers had changed course. They were heading toward the humans' home system. How did they know? Mina asked, shocked. How did they find out about Earth? Admiral Lee's face was grim. They must have detected our ships when we arrived. Now they see us as a threat. What will you do? Doyen asked. Will you go back to defend your world? Everyone expected the humans to leave. Who wouldn't rush to save their own planet? But Admiral Lee surprised them. No, Earth is well defended, and this is exactly the chance we need. What do you mean? Elder Seojin asked. They're reacting to us, Lee explained. For the first time, they're not following their plan. They're responding to a new threat. That makes them vulnerable. Captain, Sunho grinned. They're scared of us. No, Lee corrected. They're cautious. There's a difference. But it gives us an opening. Lee called in Commander Yunji. Prepare the fleet. We're going to set a trap. The plan was bold. Some coalition leaders called it insane. The humans would take a small fleet to a position between their current location and Earth. They would look like they were rushing back to defend their home, but it would be a trap. The Void Reapers will think we're running scared, Yunji explained. They'll attack what they think is a retreat, but we'll be ready for them. It's too risky, Doyen argued. You'll be outnumbered. Risk is our specialty, Sunho said with a wink. The human fleet left the next day. 20 ships with Yunji and Sunho leading them. They moved toward a system with a dense asteroid field, the perfect place for an ambush. The coalition forces watched and waited. Admiral Lee stayed behind with the rest of the human ships. Why didn't you go with them? Mina asked him. Because I need to be here if the trap fails, he said honestly. And because someone needs to continue training your people. 2 tense days passed. Then a message came through. The Void Reapers had taken the bait. They had attacked the human ships with a force of 30 vessels. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, the humans had lost 5 ships, but the Void Reapers had lost 23. It was the first major defeat the Void Reapers had suffered since they appeared. When Yunji and Sunho returned, their ships were damaged, but their crews were cheering. They brought with them pieces of a destroyed Void Reaper ship. Engineer Jihu and Science Director Mina studied the pieces with excitement. Now we can learn how their technology works, Mina said. This could change everything. That night, there was a celebration on the station. For the first time, there was real hope. The Void Reapers could be beaten. During the celebration, Doyen found Admiral Lee standing alone looking at star charts. You should be celebrating with the others, Doyen said. This victory is because of you. This was just a small skirmish, Lee replied. The real battle is still ahead. But now we know they can be defeated. Yes, Lee agreed. But don't think they won't adapt. The Void Reapers will learn from this loss. They'll change tactics. And what will we do then? Doyen asked. Lee smiled slightly. We'll change faster. That's the human way. As they spoke, a new message arrived. The Void Reapers had turned away from Earth. Now they were heading back toward the heart of Coalition territory, with their entire fleet. They're angry, Sunho said when he heard the news. We hurt them, and now they want revenge. No, Lee corrected. They're being logical. They've identified us as a serious threat. Now they want to eliminate the Coalition before dealing with Earth. How long do we have? Elder Seojin asked. 3 days, Lee answered. Maybe 4. Just enough time to prepare. Prepare for what? Mina asked. The final battle, Lee said. This time we take the fight to them with everything we have. The plan was bold. Some said it was crazy, but it was also their only hope. Admiral Lee stood before the combined fleet commanders. Human captains sat next to coalition leaders. They all looked tired, but determined. The Void Reapers are coming. With everything they have, Lee said. Over 200 ships, they want to finish the coalition once and for all. He pointed to a star map. A small planet glowed blue in the center. We make our stand here, he continued, at Valen's world. Elder Seojin looked surprised. Valen's world was abandoned years ago. There's nothing there worth defending. Exactly, Lee smiled. They won't expect us to fight there, and the old orbital stations will give us cover. Commander Doyen studied the map. His wounds had healed enough for him to lead ships again. How many ships do we have? He asked. 40 human ships, Lee answered, and 65 coalition vessels that can still fight. That's not enough, someone said. Numbers aren't everything, Lee replied. We have something they don't expect. Operation Thunderstorm. Even the human captains looked confused. Lee had kept this plan secret until now. Sir, Commander Yunji said, we haven't tested this operation. It's extremely unorthodox. Which is exactly why it might work, Lee said. The Void Reapers predict patterns, so we will give them no pattern to predict. He explained the plan. Many of the coalition leaders looked shocked. Some human captains shook their heads in disbelief. "This is madness," a Kavari captain growled. "Complete chaos." "Yes," Lee agreed calmly. "That's the point." Captain Sunho stood up. "I've seen the Admiral's crazy plans work before. If anyone can pull this off, it's him." One by one they agreed to the plan, not because they all believed it would work, but because they had no better options. For the next 2 days, they prepared. Coalition ships were paired with human vessels. Science Director Mina worked with Engineer Jihu to modify weapons based on what they learned from the captured Void Reaper technology. Captain Jiwoo found Doyen checking his ship one last time before the battle. "Do you think we can win?" she asked. Doyen touched the scar on his face from his earlier wounds. "The humans are not what I expected," he admitted. "They fight like no one I've ever seen. If anyone can beat the Void Reapers, they can." The fleet moved into position around Valen's world. They hid ships behind moons and inside the rings of the giant planet. Others drifted among the abandoned space stations, engines cold. Then they waited. The Void Reapers arrived exactly when Admiral Lee predicted. Their ships appeared in perfect formation, a wall of black vessels that seemed to swallow the stars. Behind them, "They're scanning for us," Mina reported from her station on the command ship. "They know we're here somewhere." Admiral Lee stood calm at the center of the bridge. "Wait for my signal," he said into the fleet-wide comm. "Remember the plan." The Void Reapers moved closer. Their formation shifted, becoming a sphere that could attack in any direction. "They're being cautious," Doyen observed. "They learned from their last defeat." "Now," Lee ordered. What happened next was controlled chaos. Coalition ships fired from their hiding places, but not in the coordinated way they normally would. Some fired early, some late. Some rushed forward while others held back. The human ships moved in patterns that made no sense. They flew paths that wasted fuel and seemed to expose them to danger. The Void Reapers hesitated. Their perfect formation faltered as they tried to respond to attacks coming from seemingly random directions. "It's working," Mina said excitedly. "Their prediction systems can't keep up with the chaos." For the first hour, the battle seemed to go their way. Several Void Reaper ships were destroyed. The Coalition lost only a few vessels. Then the Void Reapers adapted. Their ships spread out. They began targeting the larger Coalition ships one by one. "They're changing tactics," Yunji warned. "They're ignoring the chaos and going for brute force." 3 Coalition cruisers exploded in quick succession. A human destroyer went dark. Admiral Lee watched the battle with intense focus. "Initiate phase 2, he ordered. Commander Yunji looked at him with concern. "Sir, we're not in position yet. It's too soon." "That's why they won't expect it," Lee said firmly. "Do it now." Phase 2 of Operation Thunderstorm began. 20 ships, a mix of human and coalition vessels, broke away from the main battle. They accelerated to maximum speed, racing away from Valen's world. "They're running." A Void Reaper message said. The coalition had decoded enough of their language to understand it. Exactly as Lee had predicted, a large group of Void Reaper ships pursued the fleeing vessels. "Now we're outnumbered even more," Doyen said with concern. "Not for long," Lee replied. The fleeing ships suddenly cut their engines. They drifted, appearing dead in space. The pursuing Void Reapers closed in for the kill. Then the coalition ships released thousands of small objects. They looked like debris, but each one carried a powerful explosive charge. When the Void Reaper ships were surrounded by this field of disguised bombs, the coalition vessels fired a single energy pulse. The explosion was blinding. When it cleared, 15 Void Reaper ships were gone or crippled. Phase 3, Lee ordered. The remaining ships regrouped around Valen's world. The battle had been going for nearly 3 hours. Both sides had taken heavy losses. "Their main command ship is still intact," Yunji pointed out. It was the largest of the Void Reaper vessels, sitting at the center of their formation. "Yes," Lee said. "That's our real target." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships prepare for the hammer maneuver." There was silence on the bridge. The hammer had been discussed but rejected as too dangerous. Too crazy even for humans. Sir, Sunho said quietly, we haven't trained for that. Most ships won't survive. I know, Lee said. But if we take out their command ship, the rest will fall. The plan was explained quickly. Every ship that could still move would make a synchronized hyperspace jump, directly into the heart of the Void Reaper formation. That's suicide, a coalition captain protested. No, Lee said. It's unexpected. Their sensors can't track hyperspace jumps accurately. We'll be on top of them before they can react. Commander Doyen moved his ship into position. My people will follow you, Admiral. We trust you. One by one, the other captains agreed. All ships, Lee said. Jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. 87 ships, all that remained of their fleet, jumped at once. They tore holes in space itself, vanishing from their positions. They reappeared seconds later, right in the middle of the Void Reaper fleet. The enemy ships were caught completely by surprise. They had no time to raise shields or fire weapons. All ships, Lee shouted. Target the command vessel. Every coalition and human ship fired everything they had at the Void Reaper command ship. Its defenses crumbled under the assault. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the massive black ship began to break apart. Light poured from the cracks in its hull. Get clear, Lee ordered. All ships retreat. The coalition ships jumped away just as the Void Reaper command ship exploded. The blast destroyed dozens of nearby enemy vessels. When it was over, something strange happened. The remaining Void Reaper ships stopped fighting. They drifted aimlessly as if confused. The command ship must have been controlling them all, Mina realized. Without it, they don't know what to do. The battle wasn't quite over. It took 3 more hours to destroy the remaining Void Reaper ships, but they no longer fought with the same coordination or purpose. When the last enemy ship was gone, a cheer went through the fleet that could be heard on every comm channel. They had won. The cost had been high. Only 53 ships survived from their original fleet. Many good people had died. But the Void Reapers were defeated. 1 month later, leaders from across the Orion expanse met on a healing world. Green plants grew over the scars of war. Admiral Lee stood with Elder Seojin, Commander Doyen, and Captain Jiwoo as they looked out over a new memorial. What will your people do now? Seojin asked Lee. Some will return to Earth, Lee said. Others wish to explore this part of the galaxy, with your permission, of course. You have more than our permission, Doyen said. You have our gratitude and friendship. Jiwoo looked up at the stars. The old records were wrong about humans, she said. They called you dangerous. They should have called you our greatest hope. Admiral Lee smiled. Perhaps we're both, he said, but I think our peoples have much to learn from each other. As night fell, lights came on across the memorial. They spelled out words in many languages, including the human tongue called English. To those who came when all hope was lost. To the human fleet that saved us all.